All right, 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Do you remember it was some news a year or so ago that we were starting to see a decline in the population numbers of bees? And I don't know if that's changed or not, but it comes to mind because I'm looking at a book titled 100 Plants to Feed the Bees, Provide a Healthy Habitat to Help Pollinators Thrive. So maybe this is because of that. I don't know. We'll find out right now. Matthew Shepard is on the phone. He has spent 3 decades working with people from all walks of life to create better places for wildlife. He's the communications director for the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation. I probably stumbled over that one because I don't know what I'm saying. And the book again, 100 Plants to Feed the Bees. Matthew Shepard, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Portland, Oregon.
Well, you got up early. Thank you for doing that. My brother lives out there. I have a brother living out there somewhere. Do you know, the other day, we spilled some soda, well, intentionally, on the windshield to clean the windshield. And then we noticed there was a bee on the windshield literally licking up what had dried on the surface of the windshield.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Which was very cool to watch it, but I thought, we're not supposed to drink that. You shouldn't be drinking it either. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that bees will. No, I was going to say that bees will go for any source of sugar and sweetness that they can. There was a case in New York or New Jersey, I think it was, where people started finding red honey, but they discovered that it was a red-colored syrup that was being used in a factory not far away that the bees had found their way into. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
It's sweet and sugary. Yeah.
So before we talk about the plants in the book, is there still a decline in population of bees, or has that been fixed?
Well, a lot of what people talk about when they're talking about bees has been honeybees. And I mean, honeybees are suffering badly, but somehow the beekeepers are able to maintain the numbers because they can breed bees and rebuild their hives, but still lots of bees lost every year, but they're able to keep the numbers stable. But our native bees, there's no one out there like beekeepers looking after our native bees. And it's harder to tell exactly what's happening, but I mean, just recently as one example, there was a bumblebee, the rusty patch bumblebee, that was added to the protected species list under the Endangered Species Act.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that is a symbol of just what's happening with bees everywhere.
So do we have the same bees in Florida that you have in Oregon?
There are some that are probably the same species, but there are something like 3,600 species of bees in North America. And Oregon has several hundred species here, but the climate and the plants are so different that evolution has developed, resulted in different bees. So, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but they are kind of different. So that means that if you want to support your Florida bees, you need to be planting your Florida plants.
So now I noticed saw palmetto is in the book. I have lots of these on my land. I don't remember seeing bees flying around them, though. Do these attract bees?
Yeah, they do indeed. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Oregon, so I'm a little distant from you, but they do support bees. I mean, when the saw palmetto is actually in full bloom, it's a pretty spectacular blossom it has in a flower head, and that's when it's going to be attracting bees. If it's just the leaves and the greenery, then there's not much to attract a bee.
Gosh, Robin, have you ever seen the blossom on this thing? I don't think I've ever seen it.
No, I never have.
Why? Well, so mine doesn't blossom, I guess. I got a sick one, I guess.
Yeah. Gosh. Are bees related to butterflies? Because I noticed one of the plants you have in your book to attract bees are milkweed, and that's what we're told that attracts butterflies too.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really related to butterflies. It's like birds. You might have an eagle or a sparrow. It's all a bird. I mean, bees and butterflies are all insects. But what they're attracted to is the nectar. And so, the nectar that the plant's producing is is feeding the bees and it's feeding the adult butterflies. And but with the milkweed and the monarch butterfly in particular, the thing that's so important is that the monarch butterfly's caterpillars needs to eat the milkweed leaves, and that's what sustains them.
The book is really beautiful. For the listeners,
thank you.
I mean, it's just chock full of all kinds of beautiful full-color photographs. It's called 100 Plants to Feed the Bees. So now, why did you write the book? Is this so we can feed the bees? I mean, is that the whole purpose?
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind it is that bees are everywhere. I mean, they're in your neighborhoods, they're in your towns and parks anyway, and the problems they're facing are just this loss of flowers from the landscape as one of the problems. But that's something that we can all contribute to. This is a big problem, but it's not a problem without a solution. And the solution is pretty simple and straightforward. It's grow flowers, make sure there's something to feed bees. I mean, if we didn't have food, we would go hungry and fade away, and it's the same with bees. So this is something that everybody can help with.
And the honey is such a lucrative market. I mean, you see the farmers markets have jars of honey all the time there, and people love honey. And if we don't take care of the bees, that honey is going to disappear.
That's right. I mean, there are other things that bees bring to us as well, apart from honey. I mean, the work they do, I call it work. They're not actually doing it on purpose. They're just feeding themselves, collecting food for their offspring. But in doing that, they're moving pollen from one flower to another, and that means seeds and fruits from those flowers. So the flowers will keep growing in our meadows and roadsides. But also, something like 1/3 of our food and drink comes from the work of a pollinator. I mean, I've been drinking coffee this morning, and we wouldn't have coffee beans if it wasn't for a pollinator on that flower.
Oh, really?
And so there are lots of ways. Yeah, and chocolate as well. It's not bees, but without a pollinator, you wouldn't have chocolate, and that would be sad, wouldn't it?
It would be sad. I wouldn't like that at all.
So there are just lots of different ways in which bees touch our lives every day, and we don't always recognize that. So this is something that we can do to help bees and give back.
There's so much we don't know, and I always appreciate when somebody brings something new to the show that we've never had before. We've never had this. So the book includes not only which plants, but also how to plant them, and you also give little regional maps to kind of give us an idea whether those plants will work in our area.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, someone who wants to make a garden now, there's so many sources of information. You know, you can search around online or go to your garden center and lots of different places. But it's a little overwhelming. It can be intimidating. There's just so much information, like, wow, where do I start? And so with this book, we wanted to try and make it as simple as possible.
And you talk about bee nests, and I always picture bees with hives, but then you also talk about the cuckoo bees, about how they don't do nests.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are 3,600 species of bees in this country, and every one of them is slightly different in how they nest. And the honeybee is the only one that lives in such a big colony, and you can keep in a box. And most of them might just need a bit of bare ground where they can dig a tunnel into the ground and have a few brood cells off that tunnel, or they might be occupying an old abandoned mouse nest underneath a pile of sticks or something like that. So flowers are fantastic, a brilliant first step that anybody can take. But once you get into bees a little more, then there are some other things that you can be doing to help.
We have a gardening show on Tuesdays, and we have another gardening lady who calls in twice a week. And for the listeners who listen to Carol Ann on Tuesday or to Lori Williams on the other days from Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, one of you is going to love this book. I mean, the one I have here. So call me if you want the one that's here, and I'll give it to you. It's called 100 Plants to Feed the Bees. The rest of us have to go buy it. Matthew Shepard, how do we buy the book?
Well, I hope you find it in your local bookstore, and certainly there's online booksellers so you can get it. But if you go to the Xerces Society's website, which is just xerces.org, xerces.org, you'll find the book there, and you'll find a lot of other information to help you go to take that next step of and helping out with bee conservation.
Thank you so much for being on the air. This is something we've never talked about before. I have somebody who wants the book. I'll take your call off the air. Matthew Shepard, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Vice President Pence now in Indonesia, where he's telling Jakarta the U.S. wants to strengthen its strategic partnership. This fall, President Trump will be heading to the Philippines and Vietnam, the first confirmed presidential trip to the region, where North Korea is ratcheting up tensions.
They have threatened a super mighty preemptive strike, saying that they could immediately wipe out U.S. forces in South Korea and also strike the U.S. mainland, reducing them to ashes.
Fox's Benjamin Hall, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson responding.
We're reviewing all the status of North Korea, both in terms of state sponsorship of terrorism, as well as all the other ways in which we can bring pressure to bear on the regime in Pyongyang.
Parents in Georgia winning the fight to name their toddler's last name Allah. Now that the state's reversed course, it first said the baby's last name had to be that of the father, mother, or combination for the initial birth record. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Most health insurance plans don't include dental coverage, and with the expenses you already